I am the most excited about working with this team that I've ever been practically in terms of the day-to-day.
And before starting this video, we have to quickly thank our sponsors in Oli for helping us provide you with all this content. And as always, please, if you are looking for some energy drinks and some tasty beverages, make sure to check out the Oli website for some really nice products and use the code SE5 at checkout for €5 discount or SE10 for 10% discount on any purchase that you do on the website. And once again, thank you so much to Oli for sponsoring this content. And now, please enjoy the interview. All right, today was the second day of the LEC Spring Split, and I am in the presence of Mac, the head coach of Vitality, after a dominant and important win for you guys, starting the split with a banger, I guess. And I mean, on paper, you are now tied for first place, right? So, I mean, it must feel good. What do you think about this first match?
I think it was a good warm-up. I think Giants hasn't found their stride yet. They looked a bit shaky yesterday, and we had extra info over them because they played twice, which sucks. So that's pretty unfortunate for them. I think we were also pretty shaky in lots of moments, right? Something that we were already prepared for was competitive matches feel so different, and when you have a player who's learning a new role, it's like it's so different to scrims. So there were for sure some jitters on our side. Like we were really excited at certain points in the game, and we had some fights that were pretty messy. But overall, we're happy.
Yeah, and I mean, this Vitality, obviously, it's a one-match sample size, so it's really hard to judge and everything. But we've seen like Niski on Twitter, every time there's a good scrim, he's like tweeting it, right? And he's very vocal about it. So, I mean, how do you feel about how the team is doing so far, like since the addition of Niski as well? Because it feels like this Vitality is like very confident now as well, right?
For sure, we're really confident. We're really excited for just to work together, honestly. Like the day-to-day atmosphere, the scrims, the quality of the practice, the communication, like the standards. Like Niski adds so many things to the team, and everyone that comes into contact with us who has known us from before is like, oh wow, it feels really different, but in a good way, you know. So yeah, we're all super excited for it, honestly.
Yeah, and I mean, I want to ask you a bit about that difference. How would you describe the difference between winter and spring Vitality in a few words, I guess? Like, what are the major aspects that you think are like different?
Togetherness, proactiveness, high standards. I'd say those are the three big changes.
Yeah, and I mean, speaking of that as well, I remember obviously Niski is a player that you've worked with in the past and you hold very dear to your heart. I remember, I think you said in an interview with us actually that you like not hiring Niski at the start of the year as your mid laner was one of the hardest decisions that you had to make. Obviously, Shajak is a very deserving player and he's shown it today even as well. But like, does it feel good as well to be able to work with Niski again? Do you feel like he brings something to the team that some other players couldn't bring as well?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when we're looking at other support options, obviously there are people who are support players, and then you look at their careers, and no one has the same degree of pedigree as Niski does. You know, in terms of his international experience, his LEC experience, his best of series experience, and as you mentioned, I've known Niski for a long time. He and I worked together on our first ever team in the LEC 7 years ago now in 2018, right? Which is like really crazy to think about. So there's a lot of trust there. And yeah, for sure. You know, like we looked over Niski a couple of times in the past, right? Like we parted ways at certain points and blah, blah, blah. Like lots of off seasons happened. And that was really difficult, you know, as friends to make that decision going in another direction. And one of the things that I love about Niski is that that never impacted our personal relationship. You know, like he gets that it's business and friendship are separate. You know, like even while we were doing the contract negotiation with Niski on a really short time frame, and so I was involved in the process, and it was like a bit weird, you know, because we're friends as well, right? But no, Niski's amazing. So on that level, I'm really glad because I was actually like when I was genuinely really worried, you know, when we started talking to Niski and the idea came up and we're talking about it internally and we're talking to Niski about it, I was really scared of like, oh my God, I hope we're not gonna like turn down Niski again. You know, I
Yeah.
would feel so bad on a personal level. I worried that would have an impact on the relationship because it's hard not to feel undervalued when someone does that, right? But
Mhm.
Niski is really amazing in that regard. He's of all the players that I worked with, like just after my daughter was born, Niski showed up at my house with like a gift bag, you know, like full of toys and stuff, and like wanting to hold my daughter. Like he's just such a lovely person, and he brings so much positivity to the team.
Mhm. And I mean, speaking of like differentiating, I guess, business from friendships, unfortunately, the arrival of Niski also came with a very heavy and difficult decision, obviously, of benching Hylissang. And that's something that everyone has been talking about, right? And I know for you guys, it must have been very hard as well because Hylissang is a player that you initially wanted to construct this roster around, right? It's a player that you've also spent a lot of time yourself defending over the past few years. And I remember that Pad tweeted as well before I mean, when Niski was announced, rather, that it came down to Hylissang not seeing eye to eye with certain players as well, and maybe the playstyle not being there as well. Did it feel a bit like a failure for you guys in the coaching staff that like you couldn't make it work because you like said that like this was the project that you wanted to do long term, you wanted to build it around him, and it just didn't work out, right?
Um, do I view it as a failure? I don't, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
I think there were lots of things that went wrong and lots of things that like we could have done better, of course. Do I have a huge number of regrets? I wouldn't say so, actually. Um, is the project forever changed because Hylissang isn't in it? No, not really.
Mm-hmm.
I think the vision is exactly the same. I think the style of team that we wanted to be within League of Legends is something that is exactly the same now as when Hilly was here, actually, right? In terms of the vision that we have for the game. I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of the things that are surrounding the game, like the communication, the standards, the like shared understanding with each other, those things are things that were a struggle, to be honest, with Hilly, because there were lots of differences in terms of expectations and how things were communicated and not seeing eye to eye, as you mentioned, on lots of things within the game.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the overall vision stays the exact same, right? And especially the vision of how our team culture is, what standards we have, what values we have, the way that we operate on a day-to-day basis, what our processes are. Like none of those things revolved around Hilly, right? Like that's the whole project is still intact, you know.
Mm.
And I think that this version of the Vitality roster is really exciting.
Yeah. And do you feel like these issues that happened in the winter split and led to this decision are issues that could have been foreseen ahead of this year even? Because a lot of people talked about how when you like since you wanted to build that roster around like players that work together, then maybe I guess you should have known that like you wouldn't work, but obviously that's easier to say than to do, right? You can't know all these things. But do you think that it could have been possible that you guys saw this coming and in an alternate universe as well, because you had Stend right in your academy roster, and
Mhm.
now he's in the LEC, and everyone looked at him as like a very strong player as well in the support role. Do you think like maybe that could have been a missed opportunity that you could have like promoted Stend at the time instead or something?
I mean, if I had the choice to exchange Niski and Stend right now, I wouldn't take it. Like in terms of end result, I think where we ended up right now is probably better.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason for that, so like I would make the same decisions again. Were there things that could have been better about my process, conversations I could have had earlier, or like better kind of communication between me and Vitality or better process? Yes, I think the last couple years were a big transition for me personally in
Mm-hmm.
my career because things are just different when you move from a team that you've been in for your entire career to a new team. The processes are different, the expectations are different, the communication is different, the off season is run differently, and Vitality's off season, like the position that Vitality is in, is just very, very different to the one that Mad Lions is in. Not necessarily better or worse, but like the position that it's in, right? And that means that you have to kind of play the off season differently, right? So there are things that I could have done differently there for sure. There are things that I could have anticipated, absolutely, yeah, for sure. Um, do do I regret not promoting Stend? No. This is going to sound like a slight to Stend. I adore Stend. I love him. I worked with him one-to-one a lot last year on EU Masters. I think he's great. I think he's got good hands. I think he's a lovely person, great teammate, communicator. Like, I love the guy, and I'm so happy to see him doing well in LEC. Do I think that he's the right fit for us in terms of gameplay for this specific project? No, I don't think so. Like, if Hilly is like the most extreme end of the scale, I think Stend is not on near the scale, right? Near Hilly on the scale, right? I think he just has a different philosophy of the game, a different approach to the game, and I think putting him into this project with these players, like we could have had some of the opposite issues to the ones we had with Hilly, and they're like, I don't think it would have gotten the best out of all the players that we had. I don't think that the style that we want to play would have been the natural fit for Stend, right? So I don't think it was right for either party, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's fair. We are already running out of time, but one last question for you as well. No, it's completely fine. But my last question for you is like, now that you have this new roster as well, what do you think is the ceiling for this Vitality with Niski as well? And I guess, do you think it would have been possible to reach that same ceiling keeping Hylissang as well? Or is it something that you think it's just like it could not have been done, I guess, with time?
Theoretically, on paper, was it possible? Yeah. In practice, I think no. I think, frankly, the conversations that we had at the end of the last split with all of the players and all of the staff was that just none of us felt like we were improving as much as we needed to be the team that we know we can be by the end of the year. And so the team has to come first and something has to change, right? So I think realistically our day-to-day process and our growth will be better now, and I think our ceiling will be the same or higher. What that ceiling is, I don't like to predict the future. I don't like to to put a number on it,
Yeah.
But I can tell you that I am the most excited about working with this team that I've ever been, practically, in terms of the day-to-day. Basically, since I first joined LEC first became a head coach in 2020, and then we had like the dream team roster that we had in 2021 on Mad Lions, right? Like, I'm so excited about this project in terms of how we are as a team, who we are, the people that we have. Like, it's such a privilege to work with these people. So from that perspective, like, good, really good.
Perfect. Do you have any last words to the Vitality fans as well, and maybe a teaser for next week with the Rogue match ahead of you as well?
Ooh. Thanks to the fans for your patience. Thanks for believing in the process. I know it was a big U-turn. I know that things have been rough. I know that it's sometimes unclear. We're going to do our absolute best to be clear with you guys and to be the team that you guys deserve to support, because you guys are amazing and the fans here they're just the best. The Vitality fans are just the best. Objectively, it's a fact. Sorry everyone else. Next week, I mean, we're going to keep cooking. We're going to keep cooking. Today it was Yasuo. Maybe there'll be more Yasuo next week. Maybe there'll be some other spicy things in the pot. But definitely we're going to be a team that stays ahead of the meta. So I hope that you guys enjoy the process with us. I hope that you love the games, and I hope that you love the guys, because they are such a joy.
Perfect. Well, Mac, in any case, thank you so much for talking with us today. I wish you the best of luck next week, and yeah, just have some good rest and good luck against Rogue.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.